From a cultural perspective, child abuse doesn't have any cultural boundaries. It starts with a child and it goes right through every culture. Tell me what the definition of a culture is. When you say, a set of beliefs. What else? Traditions, customs, values. Okay, which culture has as its value the maltreatment of children? None. All right. If you look culture-wide, one of the nice things about America is kind of a cool place. If God's a researcher, the U.S. is his doctoral dissertation, I think, or her doctoral dissertation. Because look at the concept or the theory. We're going to take people from all around the world with cultures thousands of years old, and we're going to put them in a country, we're going to place, and we're going to say, all right, now all of you live together. Try to do that. That's a study. That's a study and a half. If God's a scientist, this is I think we're his control group, or maybe experimental group. And we've only been at it for what, 225, 230 years? Not very long at all. So in comparison to the age of some cultures, which are thousands of years old, you're getting to realize that we're pretty much like in middle school, which is what happens if you know something about middle school kids. It's like a developmental state of disturbance. Sometimes you think, boy, there sure is a lot of stuff to work out. One of the fun parts about being in this country is the experimental part of what we're trying to do. You can see that sometimes we're one way or the other way, and we're just trying to figure this thing out. But it's a good thing to try to do. So the notion is, when we have child abuse reporting statutes, does it discriminate against any particular culture? Well, then one has to invite children of all cultures here, of all cultures, bicultural as well, multicultural, and say which child here should be treated better or worse in the parenting process. Which child, for example, should be the recipient of verbal tearing down? Which child should we spit on? Which child should we slap more than the other? What child should we demean more than the other? Based on just the presence of the child. And you realize, well, any part of that is outright discrimination. That's prejudice. You wouldn't want to do that. All right. So here's the basic standard. All children are treated equally. All children have the worth that is given to their brothers and sisters on both sides. So no one's treated any differently when it comes to child abuse. Now, when it comes to child abuse, we also have age-old traditions that we're going to have to look at, and whether or not what was practiced thousands of years ago is still worthwhile in practicing today. So one of the nice things to do when you realize what child abuse is you can have a platform to stand on saying, all right, we can't be teaching this because this is getting kids into trouble. There is an if-then that happens. As a clinician, if something happens, then what's the consequence? All right, so if we abuse children, then what happens? Give me some of the outcomes. Well, let's do something specific here. On page, first page there, page 10, we're looking at the construct. Again, a construct is a theoretical summary. So now we're taking everything that's been written, all the investigations, all the CPS referrals. That's what we do in Louisiana. We're taking a look at all the different referrals, and we're trying to ascertain, based on the referral, what are common patterns of neglect. Because thousands of people are being referred for neglect, so let's look and see, is there a consistent pattern of what neglect is? And there is. There is. And so then neglect becomes defined. Anytime you take a concept, the most important aspect is to find its critical attributes. Here, I have a concept in front of you. What do you see here? A cup. Somebody said styrofoam cup. All right. So now there are two responses. What else? Anybody see anything different? A white styrofoam cup. So that's the third response. What else? A small styrofoam. A what? Bigger on the top than on bottom. All right. Now, what is perception? What is your reality? What is your reality? Yeah, it's a receptacle. It's perception. Everyone's reality is accurate because it's your perception. The first thing in working with clients is not to disregard their perception, to say, well, no, this is not a cup. This is a container. And you say, well, that might be a semantic thing. Well, it could be. May I borrow your concept here for a second? Yes, okay. I got another concept here. What is this? A water bottle? What if I put tea in it? Would it become a tea bottle? a coffee bottle. Now, is it what it's holding? Is it its function, or is it its composition? What's its composition? What's the composition here? Plastic and styrofoam. All right, container is the definition of a function, is it not? All right, because if there was no bottom to this thing, would it still be a container? Oh, what would it be? A funnel. That's right, being creative over here. All right, one is called abusive parenting, the other one's called nurturing parenting. Yeah, all right, well, they perform similar functions, all right, but what's different? Qualitatively, all right, what we're going to be doing. What we're going to be doing to enhance the overall self-worth of a person. Well, why is that important? All right, this is when we zip back into our science and say, well, why is it important to nurture children? Well, we clearly had some indicators just before, did we not, about why it's important from a health perspective, that nurturing is a better thing to do than abuse, and child abuse and neglect. In the process called nurturing parenting and abusive parenting, a very simple, very, very simple formula, all right? If, then. Human beings operate on this philosophy, on this process, primarily because our brain's designed to do this, all right? If something happens, then what happens? All right? You can't have a then without an if. Did you know these are interdependent? Then what? Then where did the then come from? It came from the if. All right?